Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mrs. Wu's Math Notes. I'm going to start by asking you a question. So I don't know about you, but I have had a lot more time on my hands, and I got to thinking as I'm working on some of my math assignments, is if the number 2 pencil is the most popular, why isn't it number 1? So that's my question for you guys. Think about that one. All right, moving on today. What we're going to do is this is very similar to last notes where it's finding the missing dimension of the cylinder. So we are working with a cylinder again to the nearest unit. So this part is different because it means that pi has been calculated. Okay, and our final answers are rounded. So again, we're working with cylinder, so that's the only formula that we're going to focus on here. If I take a look at number 1, I have volume is approximately 792, radius is exactly 6. Again, we're solving for height. What is height? So I'm going to start by writing down my volume formula. And then I'm going to make my substitution. So this part hopefully is familiar from last time we did these notes. So making my substitutions, my volume is approximately 792. So I'll have that, and then my approximation symbol, my bacon strips. Then I'm going to drop down pi, drop down, instead of writing r is 6, so 6 squared times h, which is my height. Just like all the other volume problems, my very first step is to square my radius. So everything else will get recopied, but then we'll go ahead and do 6 squared. And 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay, and now, again, my goal is to solve for h. Okay. It's like solving for a variable when we would do the variable stuff earlier in the school year. And if it's getting multiplied together, we do the inverse operation. The inverse, the opposite of multiplying, is to divide. And same thing, I'm going to start with the coefficient, the number, so 36. I'm going to divide by 36 on both sides. So the 36's on the right do divide out. Okay, that leaves me with 1, and so that's going to be 1 times pi times h, which is pi h. And then on the other side, I am going to have to do 792 divided by 36, and that gives me exactly 22. So I'll write that down. My next step is going to be to keep solving for h. So if I have pi times h, the inverse of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by pi. And then again on the right side, pi divided by pi cancels. It leaves me with 1. And 1 times h is h. But on the right side, this time the pi's do not divide out. So I'm actually going to have to take 22 divided by pi. So use that pi symbol in your calculator. So by pi. So it's going to look exactly like what we wrote. I hit enter. Okay, and I'm going to take my answer and I'm going to round it. And so my answer is 7. Okay, and we'll round to the hundredths as we did in the past. So my height is 7. Okay, going across to number 2. Again, we are working with a cylinder. It gives me the volume, it gives me the radius, and it's asking for what is height. So I'm going to start by recopying the volume formula. V equals pi r squared h. Okay. And then I'm going to make my substitution. So I have 864 in for V. Approximately, the pi will get dropped down. Instead of writing r, we'll have 12 in its place. 12 is my radius. It's 12 squared times h. Then my next step is order of operations tells me I need to square. So we're going to square this 12 first. Everything else will get recopied. So 864 approximately pi times, well, 12 squared is 12 times 12, which is 144 times h. Okay, and then my goal is to solve for h, to get h by itself. So if I have 144 times h, okay, that's multiplication. The inverse, the opposite of that is to divide. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 144, so they divide out. But if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. Okay, and so on the right side, 144 divided by 144, they cancel. That leaves me with 1. 1 times pi times h is still pi times h. On the right, move this over, 864 divided by 144 is 6. So I'm going to have 6 on the right, on the left, sorry. I have one more step to solve for h. My last step to solve for h is if I have pi times h, the inverse of that is to divide. And I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by pi. On the right, pi divided by pi, they do cancel. It leaves me with 1. Pi divided by pi is 1. 1 times h is h. So I have h by itself on the right. On the other side, I am going to have to take that 6 and divide it by pi. Okay, just like that. So make sure you're using the pi symbol. I hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and round this. I'm going to round this one up to the nearest whole number. I think the last one I said to the hundredths. Let's make it a little bit easier. We'll round always to the nearest whole number. So that's 2. Okay, very close to 2. And this is my final answer for this second example. Okay, that's it for these notes. Again, my reminder, make sure that if you have questions, you shoot me an email or post something on Google Classroom. One more reminder is make sure that you're watching these Edpuzzle videos first, then completing the Google form. Okay, so very important to do that in this order. All right, thank you so much for your time. That's it for today's episode, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.